sweets. Happy Sunday. That's all I have to say about that. My camera over here bugs me. There. Hope you all had a nice Saturday. We did. Well, I worked a lot, but then we went for a ride because it was sunny. And it's so bizarre to be able to jump in the car and go for a ride and not wear a coat and stand outside and gab with people without a coat in January. That is surreal to us. It's so strange to us to be able to do that. So, oh, that's awesome. I love my AirPods. I love them. My only complaint about my AirPods is that the battery does not last very long. So I always wear one, and then as it starts to die, I put it in the case and pop in the other. So that's the way I keep mine charged. They don't last nearly as long as others, but the noise canceling in them is the best. They are fabulous that way. All right, friends, January 14th. Oh, Joseph. I love the story of Joseph. It's like reading a book. Well, it is a book. Never mind. That didn't make sense. All right, Joseph's dreams. Genesis 37, 1 through 17. 1898 or 1732 BC. So Jacob settled again in the land of Canaan, where his father had lived as a foreigner. This is the account of Jacob and his family. When Joseph was 17 years old, he often tended his father's flocks. He worked for his half brothers, the son of his father's oh my goodness. He worked for his half brothers, the son of his father's wives, Bilhah and Zilpah. But Joseph reported to his father some of the bad things his brothers were doing. Jacob loved Joseph more than any of his other children because Joseph had been born to him in his old age. So one day, Jacob had a special gift made for Joseph, a beautiful robe. But his brothers hated Joseph because their father loved him more than the rest of them. They couldn't say a kind word to him. One night, Joseph had a dream, and when he told his brothers about it, they hated him more than ever. Listen to this dream, he said. We were out in the field trying to tying up bundles of grain. Suddenly, my bundles stood up, and your bundles all gathered around and bowed low before mine. His brothers responded, So you think you will be our king, do you? Do you actually think you will reign over us? And they hated him all the more because of his dreams and the way he talked about them. Soon Joseph had another dream, and again he told his brothers about it. Listen, I have had another dream, he said. The sun, moon, and 11 stars bowed low before me. This time he told the dream to his father as well as to his brothers, but his father scolded him. What kind of dream is that? He asked. Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow to the ground before you? But while his brothers were still jealous of Joseph, his father wondered about what the dreams meant. Soon after this, Joseph's brothers went to their father's flock, went to pasture their father's flocks at Shechem. When they had been gone for some time, Jacob said to Joseph, Your brothers are past Sebastian put his toy literally right on top of the Bible. Sorry. Okay, hold on. Now I lost my place. Soon after this, Joseph's brothers went to pasture their father's flocks at Shechem. When they had been gone for some time, Jacob said to Joseph, Your brothers are pasturing the sheep at Shechem. Get ready, and I will send you to them. I'm ready to go, Joseph replied. Go and see how your brothers and flocks are getting along, Jacob said. Then come back and bring me a report. So Jacob sent him on his way, and Joseph traveled to Shechem from their home in the valley of Hebron. When he arrived there, a man from the area noticed him wandering around the countryside. What are you looking for? He asked. I'm looking for my brothers, Joseph replied. Do you know where they are pasturing their sheep? Yes, the man told him. They have moved on from here, but I heard them say, Let's go to Dothan. So Joseph followed his brothers to Dothan and found them there. Joseph sold into slavery, Genesis 37:18 through 36. When Joseph's brothers saw him coming, they recognized him in the distance. As he approached, they made plans to kill him. "Here comes the dreamer," they said. "Come on, let's kill him and throw him into one of these cisterns. We can tell our father a wild animal has eaten him. Then we'll see what becomes of his dreams." But Reuben heard of their scheme. He came to Joseph's rescue. "Let's not kill him," he said. "Why should we shed any blood? Just throw him into this empty cistern here in the wilderness. Then he'll die without our laying a hand on him." Reuben was secretly planning to rescue Joseph and return him to his father. So when Joseph arrived, his brothers ripped off the beautiful robe he was wearing. Then they grabbed him and threw him into the cistern. Now the cistern was empty. There was no water in it. Just then, just as they were sitting down to eat, they looked up and saw a caravan of camels in the distance coming towards them. It was a group of Ishmaelite traders taking a load of gum, balm, and aromatic resin from Gilead down to Egypt. Judah said to his brothers, "What will we gain by killing our brother? We'd have to cover up the crime. Instead of hurting him, let's sell him to those Ishmaelite traders. After all, he is our brother, our own flesh and blood." And his brothers agreed. So when the Ishmaelites, who were Midianite traders, came by, Joseph's brothers pulled him out of the cistern and sold him to them for 20 pieces of silver, and the traders took him to Egypt. Some time later, Reuben returned to get Joseph out of the cistern. When he discovered that Joseph was missing, he tore his clothes in grief. Then he went back to his brothers and lamented, "The boy is gone. What will I do now?" Then the brothers killed a young goat and dipped Joseph's robe in its blood. They sent, they sent the beautiful robe to their father with this message: "Look at what we found. Doesn't this robe belong to your son?" Their father recognized it immediately. "Yes," he said, "it's my son's robe. A wild animal must have eaten him. Joseph has clearly been torn to pieces." Then Jacob tore his clothes and dressed himself in burlap. He mourned deeply for his son for a long time. His family all tried to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. "I will go to my grave mourning for my son," he would say, and then he would weep. Meanwhile, the Midianite traders arrived in Egypt, where they sold Joseph to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, to the king of Egypt. Potiphar was captain of the palace guard. Judah and Tamar, Genesis 38, 1 through 30. About this time, Judah left home and moved to Adullam, where he stayed with a man named Hira. There he saw a Canaanite woman, the daughter of Shua, and he married her. When he slept with her, she became pregnant and gave birth to a son, and he named the boy Then she became pregnant again and gave birth to another son, and she named him Onan. And when she gave birth to a third son, she named him Shelah. At the time of Shelah's birth, they were living at Kezib. In the course of time, Judah arranged for his firstborn son, to marry a young woman named Tamar. But was a wicked man in the Lord's sight, so the Lord took his life. Then Judah said to brother Onan, "Go and marry Tamar, as our law requires of the brother of a man who has died. You must produce an heir for your brother." But Onan was not willing to have a child who would not be his own heir. So whenever he had intercourse with his brother's wife, he spilled the semen on the ground. This prevented her from having a child who would belong to his brother. But the Lord considered it evil for Onan to deny a child to his dead brother. So the Lord took Onan's life too. Then Judah said to Tamar, his daughter-in-law, "Go back to your parents' home and remain a widow until my son Shelah is old enough to marry you." But Judah didn't really intend to do this because he was afraid Shelah would also die, like his two brothers. So Tamar went back to live in her father's home. Some years later, Judah's wife died. After the time of mourning was over, Judah and his friend Hira the Adullamite went up to Timnah to supervise the shearing of his sheep. Oh my goodness. Someone told Tamar, Look, your father-in-law is going up to Timnah to shear his sheep." Tamar was aware that Shelah had grown up, but no arrangements had been made for her to come and marry him. So she changed out of her widow's clothing and covered herself with a veil to disguise herself. Then she sat beside the road at the entrance of the village of Enaim, which is on the road to Timnah. Judah noticed her and thought she was a prostitute since she had covered her face. So he stopped and propositioned her. "Let me have sex with you," he said, not realizing that she was his own daughter-in-law. As though that would make it any worse. How much? How much will you pay to have sex with me? Tamar asked. I'll send you a young goat from my flock, Judah promised. But what will you give me to guarantee that you will send the goat? She asked. What kind of guarantee do you want? He replied. She answered, leave me your identification seal and its cord on the walking stick you are carrying. So Judah gave them to her. Then he had intercourse with her, and she became pregnant. Afterward, she went back home, took off her veil, and put on her widow's clothing as usual. Later, Judah asked his friend Hira the Adullamite to take the young goat to the woman and pick up his things he had given her as his guarantee. But Hira couldn't find her. So he asked the men who lived there, where can I find the shrine prostitute who was sitting beside the road at the entrance to Enaim? We've never had a shrine prostitute here, they replied. So Hira returned to Judah and told him, sorry, I couldn't find her anywhere. And the men of the village claim they have never had a shrine prostitute there. Th- then let her keep the things I gave her, Judah said. I sent the young goat as we agreed, but we couldn't find her. We'd be the laughingstock of the village if we went back again to look for her. About 3 months later, Judah was told, Tamar, your daughter-in-law, has acted like a prostitute, and now, because of this, she's pregnant. Bring her out. Let her be burned, Judah demanded. But as they were taking her out to kill her, she sent this message to her father-in-law. The man who owns these things made me pregnant. Look closely. Whose seal and cord and walking stick are these? Judah recognized them immediately and said, she is more righteous than I am because I didn't arrange for her to marry my son Shelah. And Judah never slept with Tamar again. When the time came for Tamar to give birth, it was discovered that she was carrying twins. While she was in labor, one of the babies reached out his hand. The midwife grabbed it and tied a scarlet string around the child's wrist, announcing, this one came out first. But then he pulled back his hand, and out came his brother. What? The midwife exclaimed. How did you break out first? So she named him Perez. The baby with the scarlet string on his wrist was, when he was born, he was named Zerah. Descendants of Judah, 1 Chronicles 2, 3-6. Judah had 3 sons from Bathsheba, a Canaanite woman. Their names were Onan, and Shelah. But the Lord saw that the oldest son, was a wicked man, so he killed him. Later, Judah had twin sons from Tamar, his widowed daughter-in-law. Their names were Perez and Zerah. So Judah had 5 sons in all. The sons of Perez were Hezron and Hamul. The sons of Zerah were Zimri, Ethan, Heman, Calcol, and Darda, 5 in all. 1 Chronicles 2:8. The son of Ethan was Azariah. Joseph in Potiphar's house, Genesis 39, 1-18. When Joseph was taken to Egypt by the Ishmaelite traders, he was purchased by Potiphar, an Egyptian officer. Potiphar was captain of the guard for Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. The Lord was with Joseph, so he succeeded in everything he did as he served in the home of his Egyptian master. Potiphar noticed this and realized that the Lord was with Joseph, giving him success in everything he did. This pleased Potiphar, so soon he made Joseph his personal attendant. He put him in charge of the entire household and everything he owned. From the day Joseph was put in charge of his master's household and property, the Lord began to bless Potiphar's household for Joseph's sake. All his household affairs ran smoothly, and his crops and livestock flourished. So Potiphar gave Joseph complete administrative responsibility over everything he owned. With Joseph there, he didn't worry about a thing, except what kind of food to eat. Joseph was a very handsome and well-built young man, and Potiphar's wife soon began to look at him lustfully. Come and sleep with me, she demanded. But Joseph refused. Look, he told her, my master trusts me with everything in his entire household. No one here has more authority than I do. He has held back nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How could I do such a wicked thing? It would be a great sin against God. She kept putting pressure on Joseph day after day, but he refused to sleep with her, and he kept out of her way as much as possible. One day, however, no one else was around when he went in to do his work. She came and grabbed him by the cloak, demanding, come on, sleep with me. Joseph tore himself away, but he left his cloak in her hands as he ran from the house. When she saw that she was holding his cloak and he had fled, she called out to her servants, Soon all the men came running. "Look," she said, "my husband has brought this Hebrew slave here to make fools of us. He came into my room to rape me, but I screamed. When he heard me scream, he ran outside, got away, but he left his cloak behind with me." She kept the cloak until her husband came home. Then she told him the story. "That Hebrew slave you brought into our house tried to come in and fool around with me," she said, "but when I screamed, he ran outside, leaving his cloak with me." Joseph put in prison, Genesis 39:19 through 23. Potiphar was furious when he heard his wife's story about how Joseph had treated her. So he took Joseph and threw him into the prison where the king's prisoners were held, and there he remained. But the Lord was with Joseph in the prison and showed him his faithful love. And the Lord made Joseph a favorite with the prison warden. Before long, the warden put Joseph in charge of all the other prisoners and over everything that had happened in the prison. The warden had no more worries because Joseph took care of everything. The Lord was with him and caused everything he did to succeed. A little bit saucy story this morning for a Sunday. All right. We are on in Believe Jesus Loves You on page 28. The poem is called Lord, My Prayer. Lord, help me learn my purpose here on earth. Lord, help me realize the measure of my days begin at birth. Lord, help me see good in others. Lord, help me not to condemn or talk about my sisters and brothers. Lord, may my heart be filled with only love and kindness, your will in mind. Lord, bridle my tongue with gentleness, and most of all love, your kind. Lord, when I astray, Lord, help me find my way back to the loving Jesus of all, that I may accomplish your call. May 16th, 1981, and it's based on Psalms 39, 1 through 5. Oh, I have hiccups. I chugged my vitamin drink right before this video, so I'm like burping and hiccuping and gasping. Super professional. All right. That coffee's terrible. Let me go back and scroll through the chatty chat. Brr. This cold weather. Spring will be here before we know it. You are, Carolyn? That's cool. All right. Stay there. All right, my friends, let's go ahead and end our morning together in a word of prayer. Father God, we thank you so much for this opportunity. We thank you for everyone who is gathered here together before you. And I just praise you this morning for this opportunity. And I praise you for each and every person here who has come to read the word together and worship you through the reading of your word. And I thank you so much for the word and thank you for the stories of the Old Testament and everything that you reveal to us each day as we read your word. And I just thank you for your faithfulness and your promises that are displayed every day through your word. God, I just pray for the requests that are here today on the hearts of many. I know there is sickness, there is struggles with diseases and marriages and sick babies and just so much difficulty on the hearts of each person here. And God, you did not promise that this life would be easy, but you did promise that you would be with us. And God, I just thank you for that promise. And I pray for the hearts of each person here with the requests heavy on their hearts. And I just pray for your peace for each one of us. And God, I pray that you will help us to recognize your sovereignty through all of this and trust you through the difficulties that we experience. God, I just pray for each person here today as we go about our day that you will help us to keep our eyes focused on you, keep our words and hearts pure as we go through our day, and help us to be a picture of Jesus wherever we go in our community, in our church, at home, with our family, and with our friends. In your precious name I pray. Amen. Okay, friends. Thank you for joining me this morning. I've got Patreon to record today. I've got a whole bunch of Patreon. We are working through the alphabet. We're doing a word a day, starting with each letter of the alphabet. And so far we've done A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. Yeah, I had to count because I didn't know where it was. And so we start with K tomorrow. If you're interested in joining us for that, go over to Patreon and look for Joyful Life with KJ, and you can subscribe there to get those videos every day, to kick off your day with some encouragement and some motivation to stay on plan. All right, go about your day. Stay on plan, my friends. I love you all, and I will see you back tomorrow for more devotions. Have an amazing Sunday, guys.